Welcome to the Community Hotline, presented by 88 Real Estate Media for the community, by the community. I am your host, Mr. Bob Fang, and today we have community member Elijah. Why don't you introduce yourself, good sir?
Hey there, how you doing, Bob? Hi, listeners and viewers. My name is Elijah Zane, and I live here in Austin, Texas, and I'm a director of digital content for an agency here called Workhorse Marketing. I'm pretty much a creative, video producer, photographer, and animator.
I love that. I love that. And what is your intention today?
My intention today is to help educate others who might be viewing to learn more about, I guess, how I got to this point and how my story can help you improve your career in the creative field if you wanted to be in it.
I love that. I love that. All right. Well, before we begin, let's set up the rules of the game. This is a no cursing show. So if you do curse, your first strike will happen.
Okay.
Strike, and then a third strike. With that being said, obviously think of it as basketball. You do get a few fouls. So if you do, whip out a few words, that's fine. But just letting you know ahead of time.
Good. Very nice. Yeah.
Let's get into the first topic of the day, which is money. Tell us.
Okay.
What does money mean? What is money?
Oh, so the definition of money is what you use to pay bills. And you also work hard for it. So that way you can pay those bills in order to spend time with your family and your friends. So without that, you really can't do those things successfully.
I love that. I love that. What is your first experience with money has been when you were younger, and how has it changed to now?
When you're younger, you know that you want to be self-sufficient, right? You are in high school and you're growing up, and you're eventually going to have to be out on your own, providing for yourself. So I remember getting my first job and getting my first paycheck. I just remember how it felt like, okay, now I have control. Like now I can go do the things that I want to do, get the things that I want to get, and start using it as a tool to improve my life.
Okay. What was your first job? How old were you? When did you start making money?
Oh, I was earning money when I was working at my family's junkyard. That was my first go to work. My brother and I were just really young, maybe 12 to 15. We were going to my grandparents' house on the weekend, and in the mornings, we would go wake up really early and go to the junkyard and either pick up old car starters and generators and burn them and take them apart. So that way we get the copper, and we would weigh the copper, and we would pay ourselves from the copper. And that's how we made a living, or that's how we earned money. But as soon as we turned 16 years old, we were like, oh, we're not going to work at the junkyard anymore. Because it was not fun work, man. I tell you what, in the Texas heat, wearing coveralls and burning metal with diesel and all kinds of things you're not supposed to use. I mean, it was just really intense, but we wanted to make money.
So this was your dad's junkyard?
This was my grandparents' junkyard. Yeah. My father had worked at a power plant at the time, and he really wasn't in the family business, but he was like, I'm dropping you guys off at Grandpa's house because y'all are going to go work. And so Grandpa put us to work the next morning, and we were there every Saturday, and in the summer, sometimes during the week. But, we would pay ourselves by the pound for copper. And so the more you burn, the more you earned.
Can you walk me through a typical day? That's really interesting. So what you get into the junkyard, you'd go and search the hood of cars and look for generators and starters and whatever.
Oh yeah. So, we would wake up, make breakfast and breakfast tacos, and we would ride in this old Toyota pickup that was small, but it had a bunch of equipment in the back. And so we would ride 12 miles out. When we would arrive, there was already barrels and barrels and barrels of starters. People would just bring in 1,000 pounds of this stuff. They look like a tortilla roller. A starter looks like a cylinder, and there's a shaft inside of it, and there's copper coils that wrap around it. So, but there were just so many of them, and some of them were small, some of them big, some of them were really big. I mean, we're using axes to cut copper at this point, but we would usually grab a few hundred, maybe about 100 to 300, and we would put them in a big open tank, about the size of a trough, a circular trough for horses and cows. But it was 10 feet circle and a barrel. We dump all this Well, before we do that, we would cut off one end of it and remove the top of the copper, right? We would cut off with a chisel and a hammer. And my grandma was up there too, just, and so we would remove the top of the copper. And then we would take the other half of the starter and we would put all of them into this big barrel, and we would get hay and wood, and then we would pour diesel. We would get like a pan, like a cooking pan. We would scoop the diesel out of another barrel that was like, 50 feet away, and we'd go pour it all over it. And then we would set the thing on fire. And what happens is when you burn generators or starters on fire, when you turn them on, not generator, but a starter, the fire burns off all of the plastic that's in some of the parts. And some of it is asbestos, and some of it is just stuff on top. So when you burn it, I mean, there's some intense heat going on. So we would just let that thing burn for the day and let it cool overnight. So when the next day we would come, is we would take out all the starters out, and then it was a mess. And then what happens is the starter, the copper coils in it, we would hit it and just bang the heck out of it, and maybe sometimes like vice script it in with like I can't remember those tools you call it, like it. You just tighten it up, and you would hit it or bang it out, and the copper would just fall out. And then you would take the copper and you put them in a bucket, and you would do that for the rest of them. But sometimes they weren't that easy because the copper coils would not just all fall out. So, I mean, we were pulling it with like our gloves and like using pliers just pulling it and put it in that bucket. And it was just like the hardest work. And I think we stopped doing that once my brother got injured, because he was working on a starter. The series of the starter was like this big, like the circular starter, and the copper coils were like huge. So
what was that, like a huge truck or an airplane or something like that?
It was probably from like a Caterpillar farm truck of something. It was just massive. I've never seen anything like it. But my brother was trying to take out the middle, the starter cylinder outside of this bigger shell.
Yeah.
He was using a sledgehammer, and the pin that keeps the cylinder in flipped and cut him on the side of the eye. And so he pretty much passed out. My grandpa found him just on the ground, bleeding, took him to the hospital, and that was it. We really didn't spend that much time there.
How much do you make for like 100 pounds of copper?
Well, we would burn a barrel, and we would be done with taking the copper out at the end of the week. And we probably ended up with like maybe $100 each.
Dang, that was a lot of money, I would assume, for like a 13-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. You got you can buy your pager at the time. You can buy the Game Boy or like the little mini computer, just to enter addresses and contacts, just techie stuff, that we were buying. I was saving up for like a video card, like an IEEE 34 or something vintage. I don't know. It didn't even work after I got it. It didn't even fit in my motherboard. You remember that? And so, it was a decent amount of money that we worked hard and looked forward to at the end of the week.
That's intense. Well, appreciate you sharing that story. I don't think I've ever heard anything like that. But I'm sure that could have, that was a lot of great education, I'm assuming, to start that young. And then, I don't know, do a lot of kids in Texas do that? Or were you more like
no, not really. A lot of kids in Texas would, growing up, you were either in a gang or you were at summer camp if you had money. We were in a gang and we were working at the junkyard.
Just Breaking Bad all over. I love it. Yeah. All right, let's move on to our second topic of the day, which is education. Speaking of the youth, then, who were you in high school?
In high school, I was this kid who was in an art club, LD debate club, and tennis club, or played tennis, and I was also in some other kind of physics club. But I was just hanging out with people who liked computer programming or graphic design or art, just the class clown too, being an LD debate, the competitions. I mean, group improv was like my favorite thing. But yeah, I was just like this fun friend and played tennis and, had a part-time job after the junkyard. We were working at a carpet cleaning business and then a restaurant, but played tennis, art, loved my math classes, like my physics class. and I had AP calculus. So I had accidentally got into a GT honors class in junior high because I was like still a troublemaker in junior high. GT classes, you were asking what that is?
Yeah, what is GT?
It's like gifted and talented. And so you had to like place in it, or you have to take special classes to get in. And most of the rich kids had those classes. Like, there was this like, that was their thing, I didn't know it. I was like, oh yeah, they're GT classes. So when my counselor said that, called me into the office, like, hey, you don't have a classroom for this block. We need to put you in a class. There's a GT algebra class that we have open. And this was in 7th grade. And I just transferred from like more of a rough school to like more of a preppy school. And so in the 7th grade, this opportunity comes to GT class. I was like, and I told the counselor, don't you have to test for those things? And he was like, yeah, but you seem like a bright kid. I can put you in there if you want. And I was like, algebra? Yeah, put me in that class. I'll do all right. I'll be okay. So I got into the GT algebra class, did pretty good. And because I got into that class, I was able to take other GT classes. And so I took, GT, just all the GT class, the math and stuff like that, the writing.
No, I feel like sounds like your life kind of changed then with getting into different classes and different atmospheres. What were two of the biggest challenges you faced, as a student then?
I'm balancing like school and work. Like I think that like at first it was kind of hard for me to do because I knew I wanted to do well in school or even like my extracurricular activities. And then I also had this priority to have a job. That was like one of the struggles. And then maybe another struggle was just like fitting in. I think that was like a troubling thing for me to do just because I was different by the time I got to high school. I wasn't a troublemaker and I wasn't hanging out with a bad crowd, but then I also wasn't like, part of the rich crowd. And so I had found my niche or my fit in with the art club and the speech club and people who just didn't stereotype. They were just about like having a happy life and, being creative.
I love that. What I think, me talking to a few of the students recently is I think a lot of their challenges, they're always based around, like peer pressure. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how you feel like, did you ever experience like peer pressure and how do you think, kids should go about dealing with that?
Well, that's interesting. You just have to be a strong person. If you know that something is not going to help you, you just need to be like strong about saying,
not everyone copper from like, a young age and going through that fire and being tested. Yeah.
I mean, you just got to be able to say no to things that you don't think is going to help you gain anything out of it. And if it feels uncomfortable, you just like, I'm worth more than that. I don't have to do this.
How early did you find your worth?
I don't know. I think that there was a few things that happened that made me realize that I had like this value or like this worth. Like in 8th grade, I wrote like, I can't remember, but I wrote this whole project in calligraphy. Like I wrote the whole thing in calligraphy.
Calligraphy.
Like in Old English or like Century Gothic. Like I wrote the whole project, or I just did all this text in calligraphy while no one else did that. And then my teacher was like, how did this happen? And what, I was like, well, I've just been practicing calligraphy for like 3 years. Cause when I was in 6th grade, I had a gang member that was my pen pal in jail. And so he introduced calligraphy to me, but he was cool meeting him because he told me like, stay out of trouble, don't do drugs, and always hang out with people who push you. But I had practiced calligraphy behind, closed doors. And then in 8th grade, went to this preppy school, I did this whole project in calligraphy and people flipped out. And then ever since then, people were asking me to write their names in different ways. And I figured out, well, I can charge for this. $10, and it's kind of funny because like a week later, I'd come up with a new font, a different way to write something. And they're like, oh, can you do my name again like that though? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm going to have to charge you again, but I think that one of those moments is whenever I figured out that I had like this value, like I could do something that was meaningful or that contributed to someone's like happiness.
I love that. How did you start a pen pal with a gang member? How did that happen?
Well, when I was at that first rough school in 6th grade, there was people I was hanging out with who had relatives that were in prison. Right. And so I think this girl I can't remember, maybe Michelle. She knew that I was starting to draw, and she was like, "Oh, my brother's an artist. He's in jail right now, or prison. He should be a pen pal, so he can show you how to draw some things or just stuff like that." So I wrote like a few times, but she like pretty much introduced me to him. Gave me an address to send a letter to, and he came send me back some drawings and of a lowrider and like fonts and just old English, and he got me started on it.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Man, your life just seems so interesting from like middle school to high school. Tell us what were why don't you share two defining moments in your life, and how do they define and how do they impact you?
Ooh, two defining moments that impacted me. I think maybe like when I finished college, that was like a good thing because I set that goal. I didn't think I really needed to finish, but once I had the time to do that, like I finished it just because I wanted to finish it. Because I knew that if I wasn't going to finish that goal, I couldn't do other things. And then the other thing, this other defining moment was that I knew I could achieve anything. And this is when I lost a job at a tech company, and I said, okay, I have some money saved up. I want to use this time and money to really give my music a chance. And I recorded a record because I set 3 goals: record a record, build a beautiful website, and then play at a blues festival in another country. So those were the goals. So I did the record, and then I spent time to build the website. And then I built a database of all the blues festivals around the world, the person's name, the email address, the phone, the date of exception, the date of the event. And so I had a whole year to plan this. And so I sent all these emails out with the same script. The only thing I really changed was like, dear first name.
Right.
Sent the emails all separately. Hey, it'd be a dream of mine to play at your blues festival. I've been playing music for like 25 years. There's another part of my life that I really didn't share, but I played music for a while and blues was my main thing. And I told them in the email, it'd be a dream of mine to play at this festival. Here's my music. And so 3 people got back to me. They were like, well, if you're here at the time, we'll book you. But one person said, yes, we would love to have you. We listened to your music. We saw your website. We think you'd be a great fit. And I was like, dude, that is no way. So I Skyped this woman in New Zealand who's the owner of this 30-year-old blues festival. And I said, hey, this is Elijah Zane in Texas. Did you really want to book me? She's like, oh, yeah. She's like, oh, yeah, Mike, we heard your music and we thought you're great. Why don't you go ahead and book a plane ticket, and then we'll go with the contract and we'll pay you when you get here. And so I was like, okay, yeah, for sure. Let's do it. And so I booked a flight. We negotiated the contract because I counteroffered. I asked for a little bit more. I sent music to the musicians there. I found them on the web, Facebook, and organic search results. I found this bass player and a drummer, and sent them the music 4 months before. It's only like 45 minutes, like 8 songs. I went to New Zealand, and it was the most amazing experience I've ever had in my life. I was treated like a star there, and I arrived and I traveled, and we didn't even rehearse. That we played at this festival twice a day. And at the first show, get on stage, and there was like 400 people in the room. And I was like, I looked at the musician, hey, you're Matt and Henry. Hey, what's up? And a lot of energy going on. Hey, what's going on, guys? Hey, and I said, hey, y'all know the songs, right?
No rehearsal.
I was like, hey, y'all know the songs, right? I mean, I sent some emails saying, hey, make sure, do you have any questions? And everyone was like, oh man, this is easy. This is good. And I'm thinking like, sure, there's got to be some questions here. I mean, blues is easy for the most part, but there were some Latin rock songs, like some Chicano songs in there. And so we started the set. We started the first song, and the room just exploded, and they were just beyond pro. Like, these musicians were very, very experienced, and they studied the songs, they studied the material, and they were prepared. So we did the set nonstop. And then right when we were done with that show, I sold CDs, signed with a gold marker, took pictures, and boom, like people were like, let me pick up your amp. Where's your next show? I was like, oh, it's down the street at this other resort. So we go over there, we do another show, boom, we just blasted it, and it happened for 2 days. And when I got back to the United States after this beautiful experience of playing Texas blues in New Zealand with these, fascinating human beings, when I came back, I just realized that was a moment where I was able to achieve something because I had a vision for it and I put some formulas.
I love that. You use the scientific method.
Yeah, for sure. I thought I just put a goal and I just had a vision for it, and it happened.
I love that. That's really inspiring. I'm really happy you got to really experience that. So you play instruments as well, or you just...
I do. I sing and play guitar primarily, electric and acoustic. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever? I've been getting into like flamenco guitar. I was thinking.
Oh yeah, very nice.
Yeah, in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna move to Spain and practice flamenco guitar for a year and just play it on the street in Spain and see if I can like get some energy real quick.
Yeah, they could do that. There's a guy here in Austin. His name is Luis Benuelos, who he plays the nylon very, very well. I'll send you a link to his Instagram, but and maybe there's a way you can share it with your viewers in the post. But yeah, he's definitely someone I've been following. He plays at home, live streaming. Yeah, I think he's going to sit in with me on Saturday at the show that I just booked.
I love it. So you're still doing music then?
I am. That's an interesting thing because like the music part of my life just shut off completely after the COVID lockdown, which is a good thing because I just was getting kind of tired of performing so much and spending less time with my creative work. And so when that happened, I just started focusing more on video production and web design or like photography or whatever. And that opened up a lot of opportunities, especially the one I have here with, Workhorse Marketing, but I wasn't performing. So there was still like this thing that felt empty. Like all my friends, I mean, that was my network. And so no one talked to each other anymore. We couldn't see each other. And so I didn't have any friends all of a sudden. So, it's just so, I mean, there's some people are dying too, like older musicians who poor health, you know what I mean? So it's just like, they're older, they're minorities and they're sick and then they get COVID and, I can't even go see them at their funeral or see their family members. It's just so weird, dealing with that too, like emotionally, like there's a network of people that kind of shaped, the way I play here now. And, I just can't see him anymore. But I also told myself that I need to slow the music down and I only want to play once or twice a month. And it'll only be at this one place. And that's where we're going to play on Saturday. It's Geraldine's inside the Hotel Van Zandt.
Okay. I love it. Things are coming back slowly. Like the world's coming back up again. That's great. All right. Well, let's move on to our last topic of the day, which is love. Okay. Tell us, what is love?
What is love? Let's see here. Love is a series of things that happen, and love is before you can have love, you have to have trust, and before you have trust, you have to have value, and with all those things, you can apply that to people that you love. And there's different types of love, right? There's love that you have with your friends and your family, and then your partner. But love, as I think, is understanding, being patient. Looking at things at a different perspective, so that way you can understand how other ways people see it or see things. But love is definitely something you can't touch, but you can only see the effects of it. And so that I think it's important to find different ways to illustrate it in different climates and different places.
Okay, different climates. Who was your first love? What was your first love? It could be a person. It could be a thing.
I mean, my first love was probably this girl in high school, Trisha. And she was like the most beautiful girl in high school. And I was only cool in high school when I was dating her. But she was really cool, really sweet. And it was funny because like we really fell for each other in high school. We dated each other for like a year because her parents didn't want her dating Hispanics or Mexicanos.
What, was she white?
Yeah, very. Yeah, and it was so hard. We'd always just like sneak around and like go hang out with friends and tell lie and say, oh, we're gonna go do something else. But we would always like go hang out and see each other and whatnot. And I finally just kind of like told her like, hey, we just can't be doing this. It's not fair. Can't be lying and stuff like that. Tell your parents. So she kind of got ready to tell her mother the story or something like that. And then she says, oh, I want to go to the movies with Elijah. And she was like, okay, y'all have fun, be safe. And I was like, why didn't you try to do that like a long time ago? But I think my second thing that I like fell in love with was like art, like art, music. Like The whole calligraphy thing stayed with me since junior high. I mean, I still write today. People pay me to write things. I still write with an oblique pen. Sometimes I write with thick calligraphy pens, like on walls and stuff like that. One of the first things I fell in love was like art, for sure, definitely.
Okay. How would you, like, kids just starting out dating in high school, like, you got any, like, tips for them?
Yeah, dating in high school. I mean, I'd be friends first. That's important. Maybe don't spend too much time dating. Like, really spend time on like gaining really great friendships and focus on like your education and your career. Like, and you're in high school and you're gonna date. I mean, I get it and all, but you really should like focus on friendships and if you do go date, just be patient and be respectful. And don't be upset if things don't work out. Just learn from your mistakes. Maybe if it doesn't work out, ask the other person, give me some feedback. Where did I fall short? What did you not like about me? Like, I like that idea, is like getting feedback from someone that didn't work out. That's a great thing.
That's awesome. I would able to try that. Okay. So, and then the last question would be, what are 2 pieces of life advice you have for the youth listening right now?
Okay, 2 pieces of life advice. I have 3.
Let's hear it. Okay.
Number 1, don't eat chips and drink sodas. Stay away from chips and stay away from sodas, because the salt in the chips and the soda can help contribute to cracking your skin. So you want to take care of your skin and your body. Stay away from chips and stay away from sodas. Number 2, don't do drugs, period. Like, just stay away from it. Like, just find other ways to get high, like riding your bike at 40 miles an hour or something like that, or skateboarding down a hill, or solving a hard math problem, something like that. So stay away from drugs, just drinking, every once in a while, but stay away from those kind of things. And number 3, always hang out with friends who encourage you to do better with yourself in your life, and always hang out with people who are smarter than you.
I love that. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. Other than that, Elijah, you have any last words? Can people reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. If you ever have any questions about me or anything that I've done or can do, if you know anyone in Austin needs some video work or anything, you feel free to reach out to me. If you're a watcher or listener or viewer, I'd love to answer any questions or become a friend. So find me on Instagram at Elijah Zane Creates.
Got it. Anyone want a blues teacher? Hit them up, guys. All right. 88 Real Estate Media is looking for members to join the oversight committee to build the best Kung Fu school in Southern California. Please do reach out if you're interested. And also, if you do business in the real estate industry, please do consider hiring us.